Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Hey Ugandans, I'm Lieutenant Colonel Dewa Kiki, the Deputy Defense Spokesperson and actually the Deputy Spokesperson for the Uganda People's Defense Forces. I was hosted on Alternative Dig Talk. I encourage all Ugandans that this is the way to go. Always watch, participate, give your views and ask questions on Alternative Dig Talk. Dig Talk, the way to go.
Nze omubejjalu wedde Lilian mbaniriza makagafe amajja eranga wano tugenda okubanga tukolera program yaffe manyiddwa nga the voltage gaba masanyalaze gennyini eranga twogera ku bintu ebyenjawulo omonno mwe muli ebigenda maaso mu ggwanga ensonga z'eby'obufuzi n'obukulembeze bw'eggwanga Uganda twogera ku nsonga ez'abavubuka eddembe ly'obuntu awamu n'ebyenkulaakulana togisubwa buli lunaku olwokutaano basaawa emu ey'akawungeezi paka saawa 3 ez'ekiro.
The Diaspora Link buli lwakuna sawa 11 paka sawa emu ey'olweggulo ye program gye tukuleetedde wano ku Alternative Digital Uganda. Tugenda batutunulira embeera z'Abannayuganda baganda baffe bannyinaffe zibawangaaliramu mu mawanga ag'ebunaayira. Bangi banyigirizibwa, bangi bakosebwa, bangi bayisiddwamu amaaso. Naye tugenda batutunulira engeri gye tusobola okulongosaamu embeera zaabwe. Tugenda kuba tulaba abo abakwatibwako abateekeddwa okuba nga balongoosa embeera zino eno. Tosubwa buli lwakuna n'omuweerezaawo Nixon Segawa.
Hello everyone, my name is Abdalla Tiff and I welcome you to the Hotline Show here at the Alternative Dig Talk as we discuss issues of national importance. Join us every Monday 7 to 9 p.m. and see who will be occupying these seats here with us. Keep it Dig Talk, real issues, real talk.
You have got to get up pretty early to go do something. We are the Alternative Dig Talk. With our mobile studios, we are redefining TV presentation just as technology is setting the pace. We are blending our approach with fresh, perspectively designed breakfast show, The Mighty Drive, informative and entertainment show, exclusive and live interviews.
President Museveni wadde juzi namulaba apima akawunga kilo 2 tasobola kalya nini bwaba alya kilo 5 oyannema okuliisa eggwanga ne bwe limundekera.
Njagala kwebaza the Alternative Dig Talk etuwadde kano ka Mighty Drive era n'abatuwuliriza bonna abali ku mikutu njagala basaba mugendo maaso n'okuwuliriza.
All given to you just a click away on your phone, tablet, laptop and smart TVs as we are streaming live on our social media platforms, on the road and on the go. We are the Alternative Dig Talk.
Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
A very good evening and welcome to tonight's episode of the Hotline Show. My name is Abdalla Tiff and we're here to digest and look into different matters as they're happening in the country and elsewhere in the world. Of course, much is happening. What is in Mali, it's not good at all. After going through the issues to do with the sanctions coming over, ECOWAS coming up with strict measures on how to have the elections held in that country, and then coming to the death of their former president, Boubacar Keita, who actually passed on yesterday. So it is not so well, that country. And then back here, there are so many things that have been making headlines in the newspapers, both online and different media platforms. Parliament, everyone is having questions on the quality of parliament we have in this country, the kind of legislation, and how much they can contribute to the question of governance and leadership in this country, and how much can parliament influence having good governance in Uganda. Of course, before we dive into the main discussion for tonight's show, there are so many other things that we need to look at. We have seen a number of young activists coming up, and then just in just a single blink of the eye, they are nowhere to be seen. A few years back, we had people who could, for those who were here in the city of Kampala, you remember the young boys who used to throw piglets at different spots in the city, Parliament, City Square, and other places. And many would ask, where did these guys disappear to? Where did these guys go? Are they still in Uganda? Do they still exist? What happened to their activism? So we saw many people coming up, especially the former IGP. They were at loggerheads during that time. But the question is, does activism still carry any sense in this country? Well, on the show, I am privileged. I have one of the young men who was behind the piglets that we used to see in the city during those times. His name is Tumuhimbise. Please just say hi to our viewers. And it's a pleasure to have you here, sir.
Thank you, Tiff. And our viewers that are following this whole show, it's a disclaimer. You began by saying, boys, young boys, my dear, we are men.
You were young boys, my dear.
Yeah, but thanks for creating space and having me here. I hope I will share what is relevant to the public.
We are privileged to have you here, sir. And for the starters, for those maybe who may not know, he is the executive director of the Alternative Uganda, and we will get into that. Yes, Bwana Norman, we are extremely happy to have you here on this discussion. Many Ugandans, especially the young people, like you were by then, would wish to take the same footsteps, like to take the same path that you took. By the time you came up with the piglets, it was a campaign that really shook tables in this country. And one would ask, what happened to you?
In fact, to me, the very people should ask themselves what did happen to them. Because when you ask me what happened to me, it's as if you...
No, I meant you as a team.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, okay,
yes.
To me and the group,
yes.
It's as if to mean that we stopped.
The onus was on you.
Yeah, as if to say we stopped what we're doing, as if to say we abandoned the cause, and which isn't the case.
Okay.
The question should be to them, to ask what did happen to them, for them not to have joined us.
Okay.
In regards to what we did and what we are still doing, because there is a lot that we're still doing, and I can assure you, sometimes I want to equate ourselves to a bamboo. Bamboo can spend over 7 or so years down, but the moment it goes up, its roots
it
already
becomes unstoppable.
So that is it, and to me that's the comment I can give.
Well, this is a preamble show, a preamble discussion as we wait for the guests who will be joining us in a very short while to discuss the role of Parliament and how much they can influence good governance in this country. But we need to first understand the question of activism in this country. We've seen many young people coming up with movements or pressure groups, whatever you may want to call it. And I remember the National Association of the Unemployed Youth. They did quite a number of activities in the city. We saw the Jobless Brotherhood, which I no longer hear about. I really don't know. Much as you said, as the team, you're still there, you're still pushing, but we do not see you. We no longer see the Jobless Brotherhood. We no longer see the piglets being, dumped in the city. And that is where I believe every person watching us would like to know what happened to the piglets. Did you have them somewhere and now they ran out of stock?
I think to substantiate on a few things. First of all, I and Mayanja Robert founded the Jobless Brotherhood at the time, and definitely we had ideological differences, ideological differences, and there was a force that wanted to rebrand, and there was a force that wanted to stay as we were, and we agreed to part ways in good faith, which we did. And one of the tools and tactics that we had at the time was to use painted yellow pigs to portray, to bring out the symbol of corruption amongst the leadership of NRM, which indeed continued to take place. But definitely, as we continue growing, you will have to change tactics and how your modus operandi. And indeed, we had to transit from simply having piglets dropped to now doing more organization and training young people. And definitely, there are lots of things that we have done. I am sure that our viewers are aware that as far as we are concerned, we have produced a minimum of 3 or so guild presidents. Definitely, we had Bala David Wiruka as a Makerere guild president, but at the time, Bala David was leading our students' brotherhood because we had a branch, we had a sister branch, or what we could call university clusters. The president, guild president of Chambogo, Ewan Mbazira, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, his name, Mbazira, is our product, as having trained him and mentored him. His predecessor, Tundulu, was our product. Okay. So if someone says we have hidden and buried our heads in the sand, definitely I will blame it to them.
Have those guild presidents that you've mentioned, have they exhibited the values and the core principles that led to your formation of the pressure group?
I'd say yes and no. Sometimes you give birth to a kid and you cannot ascertain whether that kid is going to be a robber. Those who supported Museveni in the Bush War, none of them thought that he would become as corrupt as he is. So things change along the way. Sometimes power corrupts people. But for us as mentors and as a movement, neither can we bury our dream of mentoring, coaching and training young people to demand for what they deserve and what is theirs. So you train, mentor on how they behave. Sometimes we do not have control over it. Sometimes, because we have had some leaders that have had issues. In particular, we had Tundulu had issues, lots of issues with his guild council. But sometimes it's human, and sometimes it's now individual. You can't hold us liable and accountable for some of our mentees on what they become after they have acquired the offices.
Yeah, but in most cases, when you are speaking, you mentioned that you went so much into organizational and something of the sort. And one would believe that during the times you could do some sort of evaluation to see your performance as a pressure group, as a movement, to see whether the kind of skills you're passing on to the young people is being impactful to change society. Have you tried to do that? And I want you to tell us, in doing so, have those skills been able to transform our society? You mentioned about corruption, and we are seeing corruption being accelerated time and again. So, we just need an evaluation of your efforts.
I think for us, Tiff and our viewers, it's we had the spoon, and we had the task of emptying an ocean. So we are doing our best to use a spoon to empty an ocean, as in to say the corruption and the poor governance in this country is deep entrenched. So that's the analogy I'm using, getting a spoon to empty an ocean. So you do the crystal contribution, because remember, we're not the first movement to be in this country. Okay. We have had so many pressure groups. It's like if you could ask what Soviet did. You know, some of these things, I mean, a pressure group comes, some of the pressure groups, once they get a few MPs, they die. They become comfortable. Yeah, they become comfortable. And this has been the trend to so many movements, not only in Uganda, but also worldwide. So it goes back to, yes, even when you make your analysis and an assessment, sometimes you indeed see that, yes, you had the spoon, but not doing as enough as you would desire. But that does not stop you from having a spoon. At least you have a spoon. At least you're trying to reduce the burden.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Norman Tumuhimbise. So many pressure groups have come up, and we still believe, we want to believe that many are yet to come. But the biggest question is, what is the contribution of these pressure groups? Actually, if you happen to speak to an average Ugandan, they have mixed reactions on these groups. Others think that it's a club of how do they call it? Like people with self-interest seekers. I don't know if that is right.
I get you.
Yeah, it's some sort of clubs for we have struggled. Now we are jobless. Now can we do something, and out of our being jobless, and then we make it. So do you really want to think? Do you want do you want Ugandans to believe that these pressure groups that have come up, like you've mentioned, the Subi and the rest, when they come, are they really on the right cause, or there is something hidden within them? Actually, you could speak on behalf of the jobless brotherhood that you know.
I wouldn't want to only speak on behalf of the jobless brotherhood, which I founded, and let alone the alternative movement as a social movement. But to be particular, it is, in fact, for me, the biggest percentage of young people, because I've dealt with them and have crossed the line of being youth to now 36 years. Makerelians call them the Chigati team. And I honestly, I used to blame it to them. I nowadays gave up on them. The greed has dug deep into their bone marrows. That even when you're talking to them, you see they call it wasi-wasi. They are there. I mean, you can't ascertain what they're about to do, but in mind, even when you invite them on something that is useful to them, to their lives, the first question is, Norman, is there a transport refund? Not which ideas are you getting from such a conference. So you are very right, as the day follows night. And young people are copying the same behavior from their seniors. Because for sure, if you have Betty Kamia with what she's doing, she's in movement, NRM, then FDC, sorry, reform agenda, then FDC, then back to NRM, and she tells you Museveni is sent by God, he's as wise as God's son. Yeah?
She's so light.
You get? Not her alone. I mean, I can mention so many names. So many, Natural Chinji, DP, Cross. There are some people, our seniors, who are simply political prostitutes. And for lack of another word, I want to believe they even have their political prostitution shelves, where Museveni comes and is like, how much is this one here? And they procure. So young people who have been mentored by such politicians, you don't expect them to behave differently from such. Never. Do you know we have even big names here in opposition? NRM, DP, FDC, U-turn, NOP, TD, forward, go forward. Eventually, now they are in NOP. And by 2026, they are likely to be in NRM. So if that's the generation that you have and you think it's going to mentor younger people, expect the unwise young people to behave exactly like their mentors.
Is the problem with crossing to one political party to another, or the problem goes back to the personality and the kind of persons holding the leadership
It's
positions?
both, because even those that mentor us lack a specific ideology. So most of the young people, their ideology is, if that word even qualifies to be an ideology, their ideology is, let us have Museveni away.
Okay.
Museveni must go, Museveni must go. And this is not to offend any person who believes in one of the political parties. I see this trending thing, removing a dictator, and then what?
They want the dictator to go.
You see, that's why we have issues. If I have issues with this phone, and say remove this phone to there, and then what? There should be an extra plan beyond simply removing my phone from this side. So removing a dictator, and then what? So the question here should be, the question that ought to be answered is, okay, after we have removed the dictator, we are going to do A, B, C, and Z. So the moment you lack such an answer, you begin to think that, okay, when the dictator doesn't go, then you must go for a position. And once you get a position, for one way or the other, the same position tends to corrupt and blindfold most of the opposition people.
Well, the question of the kind of leaders we have, I do not think it has gotten the right answers yet to describe the kind of leaders this country has. One surprising thing is that every person, every leader whom you happen to approach, he will speak well, he will convince you, and you leave that person believing that this is the rightful person this country needs. Unfortunately, what happens is that there is a local proverb, Baganda say, Chiswazi Ntula, is it? Mugaga. Yes, so in most cases, when these leaders are speaking, you're like, yes, this is the right person I need. You know, this is the person who can really take this country forward. But, Norman, I want to take this conversation back to the education sector. Do you think our education system as it is, because you and I, and maybe the people watching us, we've gone through the current education system. Do you think this system has prepared Ugandans for self-governance, or we are still moving in the shadows of colonialism?
It's a tough question. In an education system where I am taught, in 2006 when I was in A-level, I was taught about Napoleon. I was taught about Bismarck of Germany in A-level. In fact, in O-level, I remember Suez Canal.
Okay.
Canadian prairies.
Yes.
For sure. Tumuhimbise no man from Uwengo. You're telling me you're Canada. Relevance is Canada when there is lots of the same, but here. So to say, every now and again, when I'm with some other colleagues, I always emphasize that there is a specific script that we are following, and people who painted that script painted it good years ago, and still following it. And our leaders are still unreasonable enough to amend the script. I was following the sequence of events, I think sometime last week. There were some students who said they had started some businesses during the lockdown. Okay. And the argument was that they preferred having education nowadays, to have shifts of study so that they can spare time to go and read their business. I saw one of the academicians saying that's so silly of them to think of doing. They need to concentrate onto school, and they will do business and whatever case it may be at a later stage. And that was a certain academia, for lack of another word. Another academia with the mind that I equally have was like, it's very wonderful that such children or students have come up with such an idea. Let education be, have shifts so that people, they can go and attend the businesses. Because I personally, and this is with due respect to people that have done their, lots of certificates whether up to the PhD. In my view, it's not a guarantee. Chinese are developing because young people concentrate on what they can do best. So if a kid had brains during the lockdown to go and start up a business, let them go study, but also spare time to go and manage their businesses. Because now this whole world will want so much entrepreneurs than simply, we call them the actuary. The actuary. You know this actuary, this lot of English we speak doesn't bring food on your table. There are so many mechanics downtown in Cheka that can fix vehicles than engineering students from Makerere University. They are living by experience and they are learning on duty. Yeah? So until we revise this script that those whites painted, we shall be here, speak good English, good grammar. Do you know, we laugh at ourselves when someone makes any mistakes in English. Like, where did you study? Even our kids, and this is what is taught to them. Kids laugh at one another. Of late, I passed a directive, no more English in my home for kids, and they are following it. Because if they speak English at school, why should they bring the same English in the house? It's just stupid, in my view. It's not good. And as a way to shape, because you see, change begins with your home and your family, with how you manage, if you have good governance and leadership. So we say, I was telling my colleague that I gave my children an assignment, each one of them, I bought them books, and I said, when they are home, I want them to do the following. You write the name of the show you are watching, you tell me the host, you tell me what you learned from such a show. Yesterday I got one of the reports, and they were telling me how they learned how to rear and take care of rabbits. One of my kids is in P4. She was like, a rabbit gives between 5 to 7, what's the name of the young rabbits? Liter or something, yeah. It gives birth between 5 to 7. That's a kid. So that's what I have considered to have in my home. So meaning they will not have time to watch dances and those bend-overs that people do, whatever, on TV. So that's how we can begin changing society. So if I reach home and you don't tell me how relevant the show you watched is, then you're in trouble. You get? So I won't wait for a Minister of Education to say, or ICT to say, don't put these shows there. No. For me, I will give instructions in my home. So maybe by God's grace, after a period of time, I will have young people that are empowered to start business. Like they told me that they now have basic information about rabbits.
Rabbits, yeah.
You get? So it goes back to, so if I'm nobody in courts. If I can think of that, what about these leaders that we have and the ministers? That they can't reason enough to say this system of education can't change this country.
Maybe they need more piglets to awaken them up.
This time maybe we should throw snakes and buffaloes. You know, digging used to be a punishment at school. The reason why I hate digging is because everyone I would come late, chiboko, either you hold the hoe. You get? So you grow up thinking digging is like bad. A curse. It's a bad. But you know, in Europe, people even fund these campaigns, and politicians are big farmers, as in farmers.
Actually, in Europe, the most rich people, they are into agriculture.
Yes. Do you know the most rich people in Africa? Politicians. It's the other way around. In Africa, the richest people, politicians. In Europe, farmers. In Africa, people with great land, great soil, great environment, great everything.
They're the poorest.
They're the poorest. Trouble. So it's the mindset, the problem. And sometimes I tell my colleagues, if there were an app or a chip that you would chop people's heads and you place that chip into their heads, I would support that innovation. That you get all Africans, they parade every morning, they operate their brains. There's a big problem with our heads in Africa.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Norman. Like I told you earlier, Norman is the executive director of the Alternative Uganda. There is one thing you didn't tell us when you're mentioning about how you had a discussion to either rebrand and move to something different or retain the jobless brotherhood stuff, you know. It's like you didn't tell us more about the Alternative Uganda. Is it a version of the jobless brotherhood, or it is entirely something different?
Like I told you and our viewers, when we had the ideological differences, we had to move in good faith as a mean to do great work that is on point. Because when you look at even the selection of the word alternative, we wanted that our generation provides alternatives. To us, that's the underlining word. How do we best provide alternatives? Leadership, policies, the way of thinking, the way of doing things. So as long as we are providing alternatives, because it's also not fair to be there and you cry from morning to evening like babies. Museveni is bad, Museveni must go, you cry, Museveni this, Museveni. So what have you done to also provide an alternative? So that's how we came to forming a new formation under that title that would provide alternatives. And indeed, it has gone ahead to mobilize and organize young people. Because it's not fair to have disorganized people. They can never change any society, however many they might be.
When do you do that?
Are you Museveni spy? You want to know when I do what I when we organize? You just wait. You know you cannot hide if it's a pregnancy. You can never hide it. Time comes and do you know how much time it took us to organize the parliamentary pig demo? It took us over 6 months. But people, the public, you and the media and so many people know the 18th June 2014. But there was lots of work that had been done prior to that date.
No, Norman, I want to really understand the whole idea of throwing the piglets. In your introduction, you said you painted them yellow, basically to send a signal to the NRM corrupt members. But when you look at the kind of parliament we have, it has corruption actually is being manifested from all walks of life, from all political parties, everywhere. When you happen to go to parliament, you could see, you know, the brown envelopes, one crossing one another, exchanging pockets, you know, from pocket to another pocket, from pocket to a bag, something like that. And when are you planning to stage something of the sort, to signal to the members of parliament, especially, actually from the opposition leaders at different levels?
I think at a personal level, I have graduated from some activities in activism.
Okay.
And this is part of growth. That the Museveni of 1980, he used to put on that ramshackled uniform and those gumboots transited from that person to now a president, from a rebel leader to president. So to say, we continue doing our work, but we simply changed the tactics. And it wasn't making sense to always have 2, 5, 10 activists on the street without tangible results. So our levels of organization aim on to positioning young people to indeed provide an alternative. Because there is nothing for us without us. So you can't simply lament and be there. So, but once you prepare them and stop lamenting, say, okay, you're saying the president is doing something stupid, contest for presidency. You think a political party so-and-so is doing something stupid, be there, take charge of that political party. Because remember, our movement was and is a non-partisan movement. That's why we're welcoming so many. In fact, some even became RDCs climbing onto our shoulders. So to say, we continue doing our work, but differently. And just like any other political formation in this country, when COVID hit the country, all our emphasis was on to ensuring that every single person is safe. There was no, I mean, you wouldn't be reasonable enough to say you're mobilizing people to hit streets, and in the event that they are in bars, they would be at a higher risk of contracting COVID. But I want to believe that now that the economy is open, Mr. Museveni didn't open only the economy, also opened the activists' work. So he should be prepared.
But he didn't stop the COVID. He opened the economy, but COVID is still there.
No, not really. It's there, true. But the measures in which we will be operating, we will make sure that we reduce the risks for our activists to be. Because you see, the other principle is that you ensure you are alive. Because it doesn't make sense to say, no, we are so tired, and then you hit streets, and then the best you can get is COVID, and you're dead.
One would think that during the times of the jobless brotherhood, the public could feel you. They could feel your existence, your presence, unlike now. And that's why many would actually prefer to see, to refer you to the olden times of the piglets. And
I am one person who is a fan of some investigative movies, for lack of another word. Sometimes guns that make lots of noise, sometimes, underline the word, does not come with the impact. But I am sure that you know that even when you get to the silencer and put on a gun, it can still be effective. What matters is not the noise. Because it's one thing, Tiff and our viewers, to have Norman Tumuhimbise and others on the front page of any newspaper here. And the best we can do is to simply appear on front pages. I mean, we over-appeared on front pages. We over-appeared, and we're like, okay, so I don't know how many newspapers in my home where I appear on the front page. The worst I could cross to is the third page. But then the question becomes, okay, and then what? So mobilizing and organizing people, we are a network that is almost in every university. Okay. And preparing young people to take leadership of this country. Because Museveni will have to pass on, Dr. Besigye will follow him, General will follow him. I mean, if nature doesn't dictate, let me use the analogy of a banana plant. It has all these leaves. But do you know that this closest leaf is what gets old and it becomes into a dry banana leaf? So if God does not, they call it pruning, if he doesn't prune us, the young people, it means if he follows the true nature of pruning, that you prune what is old. So it means the other generation will be pruned before us. So we should be prepared to take charge of this country the moment God prunes the old generation. So it won't make sense to also look on and be crying babies. So that's what we invested our time and the little resources we have into, that, hey, there shouldn't be a vacuum of leadership. I am 36. By this age, General Muntu had served as an army commander at simply 28 years. It's a pity. I'm not even an LOC1 chairperson. It's a pity to our generation. So that's why we want to prepare young people to be prepared to take charge and fill the vacuum, because there will be a leadership vacuum. Because as we see things, the leadership that is there is motivated and moved by simply a wave. Wave.
Well, one would actually think that you must have been frustrated. We've seen many people who have been doing things of the sort. We have people like Muhammad Segrinya. We have one time we saw him carrying TV sets, and doing all sorts of, I don't know if is that activism. What we call activism. Yeah. Well, and then he ended up becoming a member of parliament. Actually, started from being a Lord Councillor. Then we saw Mugatu Gwabata. We all remember what he did, such kind of work. And the public could maybe think, oh, these people must be eyeing some political position somewhere else. And I don't know if I am right or wrong if I say you gave up on that simply because it wasn't paying out for you as you would have expected.
Not really. First of all, we are dealing with, for lack of another word, and you voters, by the way, we're dealing with tricky voters. 2011, I contested for MP, and I got a very wonderful lesson on how to deal with voters. And that's what discouraged me to ever contest again in the meantime, so that we spare time to do civic education and change a mindset of a 60-year aged person asking for 500 shillings to vote me, but rather to equip their children and grandchildren to stand upright and play their role as active citizens than simply passive and dormant citizens. At a personal level, by the time I began this activism, I did not look at I didn't have any thoughts of ever contesting because my peak of activism was between 2014 and up. So I didn't have any hopes of contesting in 2016. I simply wanted to organize young people so that we can be a very wonderful force that could shape any political discussion in this country, and that cause hasn't died. That cause hasn't died. I repeat that one in capital letters. I wanted, I still want, and I will forever want that we remain a force. Like, if we want to contest, you will simply come and say, guys, I must associate with this movement. Or a question from the media should be, what are the alternatives saying?
So are you trying to tell me and our viewers that you're nurturing, you actually created a hub to nurture young leaders who will create a difference in society and be the alternatives to the current political challenges this country is facing? Definitely, yes. Until we fight the Chigati generation, because Chigati generation has succeeded the aged Chigati generation. So you have to begin. They call it. It's which word? It's God. It's gone. You need to prepare these young people to serve the nation with the little, but with the much of their energies. Because if you look at the social media that all of us use, look at how divided the opposition is. Look at the attacks. I haven't seen anyone aged 70 attacking any of the forces. In Uganda, for me, I call them Imbwazakuno. So these Imbwazakuno, I mean, there is a lot of anger on social media and preached and executed by young people. And those are the very young people that will take over the nation. Who are likely to take over this country. Where do you think they will throw this whole pile? So if you don't work onto their mindset, you'll have trouble. You'll have trouble. You'll find a minister. I mean, you'll find you have seen the likes of Otafide fighting. You remember when General Otafide was censured out of parliament, when he picked his gun, his pistol, and put it onto the forehead of the late Kutesa. Yes. Yeah, the late Kutesa, the lady. The late Kutesa, Sam Kutesa's late wife, and he was censured. So imagine, at his age, now look at ours. Who can abuse you those big words on social media if they had the power? You get? How would they employ their power? So we must pay our role and responsibility as a movement to nurture people so that when they are in that power, it's just a walkover. Norman, that sounds to be a very, very big task for you. I am not supposed to I'm not Moses. This task isn't entirely to be mine, that I'm supposed to deliver you to the promised land. No. I will walk with you, even if it's half a kilometer, Tiff will pick you there. It's not supposed to be me. Let me hold you here, up to there. If I am able and blessed to cross the Red Sea. The Red Sea. Yes, but in the event that we don't reach the Red Sea and we're on the Blue Sea, accept that I drop you on the Blue Sea. Then the Red Sea, maybe Anita will pick you up or any other person. So for me, and that's what makes things complicated, that once you begin a movement or a revolution, you want to be the leader. You feel so disappointed, like it must be my thing. That's not how I was nurtured, and that's not how I would want to leave my legacy. Do your contribution. It shouldn't be me. Otherwise, I want to believe, by God's grace, if I had contested in 2016, my stakes were up. To be honest, my stakes were up because I was so much into that rapid activism. Hard one. So but I considered giving space to other people, and like, okay, let me continue learning the sequence of events, and I am not complaining. So after doing the first attempt in 2011, right, as a member of parliament. 2011, yeah. 2011. So do we see Norman appearing on the ballot paper in some few years to come? Mostly, God, ballot paper, I am not so certain. At whatever level. Maybe president of Uganda, maybe member of parliament. I want to believe in the event that elections stand by
the meaning as is in the dictionary. Our viewers, by the time that word elections lives by its meaning and definition in the dictionary, I should see myself there. But does it make sense to me to contest in a process that you already know how the results are going to be? Unless I consider to be selfish and I also grab a bulb off the bus and I'm like, at least I can also light, I have my bulb. If that, for me, the objective should be taking the whole thing than simply grabbing off the side mirror and you run away with it. So for me, it's better that we organize, mobilize and organize the masses towards a bigger goal than simply fighting for smaller positions, because it's fair for us to also trade in the country that has fair taxation policy.
But you have no idea when will that main goal be executed, because you don't know when the meaning you're talking, the word you're talking about in the dictionary, you don't know when it will get back to its rightful meaning, as you put it.
Tiff and our viewers, one of the greatest enemies of human being is hopelessness. If you lose hope, you're gone. Because all of us, Tiff, you do not know that you're going to wake up tomorrow. But why do you sleep? You sleep with the hope that you're going to wake up. So I do what I'm doing with my group and other people with the hope that time will come. But the moment we lose that hope, then we shall not sleep.
Well, thank you so much, Norman. In the previous, I think it's last year when we had general elections here, we saw many young people coming up and the excitements were really high.
That's a good word, excitement.
Yes, the excitement was.
Ask them now a year ago and to give us results and account for the time.
There was a lot of sloganeering. Kuruna agenda, and it's not the first time we had this. Even in some years, for those who were there, they actually witnessed that. You know, such things.
You know, he passes there to and from Rajtuda.
And now, I don't know what kind of leaders this country is to have. I am not trying to castigate the sloganeering and all that. But in my thinking, I would think that maybe the leaders should try to break away from that kind of creating excitement within the public. And you see, the moment you say Bikwase Chagulanyi, Bikwase Nze, Bikwase Ono, and now there is a trending thing, you know, Bikwase Ono go college. So there is a way it creates a detachment. It creates an impression that the process of having this country better than it is, that onus lies you know, in the hands of a few individuals. So if I say, just leave it to me, you know, it's like we do not need the public. We are differentiating them from the reality. I don't know how your movement is trying to tap into that, since you said you're trying to nurture leaders for tomorrow.
You see, Tiff and our viewers, what should be understood best is that the people, in my view, this is my opinion, the people that all these opposition or even these politicians try to convince to support them seem not to understand what indeed power means. The moment our parents understand what power means, the moment our sisters and brothers understand what power means, they wake up in the morning, vote, you rig their votes, I can assure you they won't go back home. They will claim their victory. They will ensure, because you see, because Museveni and the Kiliki knew what power was, that's why these guys left universities, left their families, went to fight for that power. And some of them haven't been disappointed. They have benefited from that power. How they became the opposite of the dream is when they began to be selfish and feed themselves. But if they had used the same power as they had pledged to the citizens, this country wouldn't be as is. So we need to do a lot of work to, first of all, teach people what exactly they are looking for. When you teach them what they are looking for, you also have to teach them about he who holds what they are looking for. So it's just like a criminal and the security agency. He who is a step ahead beats the other. So he who has power is slightly ahead of us. So we must ensure, because he doesn't simply seem, he understands what it means losing that power. And those of us that are looking for that power seem not to understand what it means like to look for and get that very power. So we are simply there. So in fact, people just look for those positions. I wish I could be LOC1, if I could be MP, if I could be this, if I could be the other, if I could be mayor. But not that real power. Because I can assure you, yes, we have a leader of opposition. Is he powerful? It's a big no in capital letters. You have that whole opposition as a block in parliament. It's very powerless. It doesn't have power. They beat huge bokos like Dasari kids. And you come back to the very parliament because you have to beg for the salary. You get there and the Kalidi car, maybe one police officer, a fuel, those trips. You see, there's one person, I will not mention the name. He is always Mama Kadaga. You see, Mama Speaker. Look at this old man, and he's in opposition because he wants those trips to go abroad and get per diem. So you abuse Kadaga even when he goes wrong, she goes wrong rather. You know, not to get like a trip. You say Anita Among has done something otherwise, or Olanya, you not get like a trip. So be like, okay, right, honorable, every now and again. Rubbish, for lack of another word.
Norman, what would be the rightful age for young people to get into politics? Because we've seen many people when they join parliament, when that time when they're no longer members of parliament, life always gets hard. Just in less than a minute.
It goes with the nurturing. Macron in France was president at 34, 33. Is he mismanaging France? To me, the answer would be no. Sometimes it's not about age. You can also get a stupid young person and he messes up the country. Obote was young. You get? Obote was young. He did the opposite. But Sankara, in Burkina Faso, he was young, but did the opposite that Obote did. I don't know whether you get that. Because the plans that maybe for some reason you might give Obote a benefit of doubt because he had lots of bandits that were fighting him. Maybe he was disorganized by the likes of Museveni, that clique. I mean, greed the people. Maybe they disorganized him.
Well, thank you so much. We're just breaking off and we'll be right back. Then the hotline will continue.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Nze omubejja luwedde Lilian mbaniriza maka gaffe amajja era nga wano tugenda okuba nga tukolera programu yaffe emanyiddwa nga The Voltage gaba masanyalaze gennyini era nga twogera ku bintu ebyenjawulo omwo nno mwe muli ebigenda mu maaso mu ggwanga, ensonga z'ebyobufuzi n'obukulembeze bw'eggwanga Uganda, twogera ku nsonga ez'abavubuka, eddembe ly'obuntu awamu n'ebyenkulaakulana. Togisubwa buli lunaku olwokutaano eba ssaawa emu ey'akawungeezi paka ssaawa 3 ez'ekiro.
The Diaspora Link buli lwakuna sawa 11 paka sawa emu ey'olweggulo ye program gye tukuleetedde wano ku Alternative Digital Uganda. Tugenda batutunulira embeera z'Abannayuganda baganda baffe bannyinaffe zibawangaaliramu mu mawanga ag'ebunaayira. Bangi banyigirizibwa, bangi bakosebwa, bangi bayisiddwamu amaaso naye tugenda batutunuulira engeri gye tusobola okulongosaamu embeera zaabwe. Tugenda kuba tulaba abo abakwatibwako abateekeddwa okuba nga balongoosa embeera zino eno. Tosubwa buli lwakuna n'omuweerezaawo Nixon Segawa.
Hello everyone, my name is Abdalla Tiff and I welcome you to the Hotline Show here at the Alternative Dig Talk as we discuss issues of national importance. Join us every Monday 7 to 9 p.m. and see who will be occupying these seats here with us. Keep it Dig Talk, real issues, real talk.
Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Well, thank you so much and welcome back from that short commercial break. And the Hotline Show continues. In the studios, I have Norman Tumuhimbise, who is the National Coordinator for the Alternative Uganda. Alternative Uganda is a social movement that advocates for social justice, among other things, to ensure that every citizen enjoys that, equal opportunities for everyone. Well, it is the hotline, and I want to extend these apologies from the guests that we're expecting. Honorable Michael Lulu Mewaiga, we're expecting him here. Unfortunately, he has been held up somewhere and he has sent in his apologies for not showing up. But we shall have to consider him for another day, probably next week or some other time. And then we're also expecting Hajati Aisha, Honorable Aisha Kabanda, and she also sent in her apologies. She has failed to make it due to unavoidable circumstances. And then we were also expecting Honorable Moses Kasivante. We don't know what has happened to him. He's not picking up. We don't know whether he's safe, but he's not picking up. That's what I can tell you. But we have to proceed with our conversation. And the gentleman I have in the studios, like Allah said, Norman Tumuhimbise, he has been looking and following the politics of this country for quite a while, since he has been, what is the right word there? Since you've been
I've been in
a mature adult, a young adult. Yeah, from his young adult age, he has been at least following the politics of this country. And at one time, 11 years ago, he made an attempt to represent the people of Luengo.
Yeah, Bukoto Midwest.
Bukoto Midwest in Luengo district. But I think the experience wasn't good, because from that time...
Tell the viewers that just like yours. Just like, that experience. You should, our viewers, on behalf of T, just like his experience wasn't as good. So that's the same thing, that's the same shocker. Well, campaigning and an old person of around 70 years touches their throats. Like, what are you? Madness, because so that's the civic education we need to do as a movement. But to say, just in a second, one of the reasons as to why I contested in 2011, way back in 2006, I left school and I had gone home for fees. You can imagine I had traveled from Bombo to a village to get fees. So I found the former minister, the late Kezimbira Miyingo, had convened women. And my mom happened to be one of the women leaders in our parish. And it's just funny. So this gentleman at the time, and the full minister, by then he was a minister for internal affairs, he had given, so people chanted, danced, you know how they can shake their waists, those old women, Bambi, Maganda, the Chiganda dance, you know, very tired. So yes, waiting for
the minister.
Honorable minister. So around 2 or thereabout, the guy arrived. Minutes later, he was followed by this Kayongeza, what? Not Diana, a smaller pickup full of sugar canes.
Sahara.
Yes, people are hungry. So the guy, I mean, they dropped into the sugar canes, and they began, like, the mobilizer was like, Babi, 12 people should, like, parade 12, and they could give the whole stem of sugar cane to every 12 women. I was like, and then my mom, by the way, was a proud woman. She was like, everything diabetes. Like, this is a lot of disrespect. How dare he gives us, 12 women.
One sugar cane.
Yes. So literally each one of them was taking, I call it a joint of sugar cane. And surprisingly, most of the women were happy, chanting for a minister. I was like, for purposes of chasing away this man with his kujoga, like disrespect to my mom, come 2011, I will contest. That is how I joined politics.
Did he feel you, or it was
no, unfortunately he had died. No, he had passed on, because that was the very election where he lost to Isaac Sejoba and he collapsed, and straight away he got a free ticket to heaven.
So politics has also done much harm to our society.
Definitely, yeah. For me, that is the very disrespect to date. That's one of the incidents that made me join politics. But to contest in particular, that was one single event. It was a blessing in disguise, because I had gone home. So I find my mom, like you reach home and they tell you, no, your mom is on to the other next LOC. So I walked there. And I found these people dancing, happy, waiting for the minister. Literally, they know that their lunch would be sugar cane for 12 women. And on record, the people from Mwengo know that that gentleman was simply in my sub-county in Mpumude parish. 2006. I was in senior 6 at the time. And I said, this must stop. That's how I joined.
Well, thank you so much, Norman. And we need to get into the parliament. You see, parliament is like the dining table for this country. It's where they make a decision who takes what and, in what magnitude. We all know the roles of the functions of parliament, legislation, budgeting, oversight, But the question is...
In fact, you should add, now the Ugandan parliament, overeating.
Oh.
They serve themselves. They're like this greedy parent.
No, you're just being too rude to them. Now,
I will prove to you.
When you look at the functions of parliament, our topic today, we want to look at governance. And when you're talking about governance, it is not having a country which has leadership. No. It should go beyond that. If it's about governance, it should be a country that is well managed, where every citizen feels that, yes, this is my country and we're on the right trajectory to development, and where you see hope. You mentioned earlier that what is killing this generation is being hopeless. Someone not only looking at what is for today. Now, in an attempt to have that, we must have a very sober parliament, a very committed parliament, a parliament that understands the society. Now, in your own view, in your own analysis, do you think the current parliament of this country, Uganda, can make any contribution towards having good, I'm putting good in bold capital letters, good governance for Uganda?
When I was young and innocent and politically naive, I used to give, first of all, I would be in my primary school, Chakwere, deep there, and when a minister or an MP would come, would dance and, chant.
And,
Honorable,
and
honorable.
put banana plantations on the road.
Times have gone that apparently, unless I am forced, if an MP ever visits me anywhere, rather ever meets me anywhere and I am seated, even if it's a speaker, I will not give out my seat at a personal level because I have lost respect for them. But having said that, definitely there should be reasons for which I lost respect for our leaders. I want you, Tiff, and our viewers to go back and shed a picture in regards to the process through which all of these MPs reach that house. Let's go back to political parties. How their primaries are conducted. The language they use during that process, the violence they use, the monies they spend to simply get a ticket. After that process, go to the general elections. I have been surprised disappointed but not surprised by what is trending on social media in regards to one of the MPs. Is it Aloysius or something? There are so many. You can't even ascertain. If you like to know one name.
From which constituency?
Lubaga
Aloysius Mukasa. Lubaga South.
You're blessed, you know both names. So that person posted, he had been hosted on one of the TV's stations and he said he had bought his ticket at a magnitude of
95 million.
95.
I must have read it somewhere.
95 million. Tiff, a person spends 95 million in party primaries. If his allegations are correct, comes back to the constituency and spends, he talked of
2 billion.
2 billion. I am sorry to say, is it the voters that are stupid or the person they voted that is stupid? Because literally, if this job pays you, let's use a minimum of 20 or so million, at the end of 5 years, you will have earned 1.2 billion. Why would such a head spend 2 billion?
Over 2 billion.
In 95 million, that's the known amount. There is a problem with either the voters or that person they voted. Or there is a very wonderful deal that is beyond simply that amount. So once you have a house filled with such minds, what else do you expect of them? It's to gamble and share every little that is there. In fact, for your information, now I want to become your informant, even when it's supposed to be the other way around, the media informing me. I've been reading that parliamentarians want to be exempted from paying money to use that road. Don't you think these guys just deserve the biggest punishment ever? I don't know which punishment that God has ever given to the worst sinner, but those guys, majority of them deserve such. Do you remember we even had some demonstration some time back when this guy said their allowances or any earnings that they get shouldn't be taxed?
Yeah.
You remember?
Yeah.
And it was passed. So what do you expect of those colleagues? I am one person who rarely called them. I called very few of them by the title of honorable. To me, I think, they shouldn't be called honorables. They should be called dependents.
Are you generalizing the entire house or there are specific individuals that you would not deserve being called honorable for?
Even those few, in fact, those very few that that have some substance, they have been swallowed by
the majority.
By the majority useless of less use. Sometimes you want to play around with the language.
Just semantics,
use less, it means something has the less use. So they have been swallowed by those that have the less use. And once they are swallowed, it's like when you are very humble and calm and you are amidst very noisy drunkards. So everyone will think all of you are drunkards because of the noise of the, of the majority drunkards. That's how our house is behaving. And it's intentional. It's intentional. Let's go back to even, they have now entered the parliament. Look at the process through which your speakers were voted. And you now have that house
Actually, I saw the president trying to brag about it, how he manipulated the whole exercise to have Lanya, being elected the Speaker of Parliament. He actually even confessed in Kororo that he was engaging different members of Parliament. He was making direct phone calls to them, like, please, I want this person, make sure you vote for. So
at least those ones he called. Remember when he was either in Jinja in some by-election also, he said, so as long as you send me, no matter who, so as long as when time comes for voting, this person can say yes.
He was it was this gentleman.
Is it the late Navet?
Yes.
Okay, so you have such a president in his majestic convoy of over 50 vehicles leave the State House to go to a crowd and says, gentlemen and ladies, mind not sending me a jerrycan, so as long as once I punch it, it's going to shout yes. The country is gone. That even the epitome of respect is dead. Because if that's, because I watched him, not once, not twice. So once their president narrates and asserts as so, what do you expect of that house? I think even those few good ones, if they are there, consider to say, hey, okay, we want to be so good, can we be Jesus? If the answer is no, let us eat with the evil. So they...
Who runs the parliament? Who has control over the parliament?
That man sits on to plot 1 Nakasero. He has it by, not even by wallet, he has it here. He smiles at it like, now look at this one, he places a button. And we are here together. In fact, if Mr. Museveni considered passing a law that every person who wants to come to city should be given chibokos at LOC1 office all over, I can assure you it would pass. Those guys would pass it. That whoever wants to approach town should pass by their LOC1 office and be, given chibokos and then sign for you. Like today, Tiff has certified LOC1 office with the 4 chibokos and now qualifies to cross to town. Those guys would. What, so as long as he gives them money.
You seem to be very, very much bitter with the leaders we have, especially in Parliament. Do you think citizens...
Tiff, I want you to write our viewers. I am not bitter. I am honest and factual.
Well, do you think citizens have any control over that parliament?
Let's go back. I said your citizens are living in hopelessness, but also lack of knowledge of what power is. That's the point. Because if citizens knew, do you know our constitution has an amended of UN article, it should be Article 80, if I'm not mistaken, where there is power to recall your member of parliament. But the same clause, the same article goes ahead to say this will, however, work only when we are in the movement system. Which movement system says it existed in 2005. So meaning no citizen has a right to recall the members of parliament. But those parliamentarians, even when we are in opposition, and even when we are in a multi-party democracy, no one single individual in that house. Do you know how many lawyers we have in that parliament? But everyone is keeping that because they know the moment they amend it and give us that right, we shall impeach them, we shall recall them. But they can't amend it. So we are in that society of the, not illiterate, people with intentional ignorance. They just don't want to pay attention onto issues of national importance. And that's how we end up having such a house. If people knew their rights, I can assure you they would even walk to that parliament.
I have, it is Article 84 of the Constitution.
Very good.
And it says, subject to the provisions of this article, the electorate of any constituency and of any interest group referred to in Article 78 of this Constitution have the right to recall their member of parliament before the expiry of the term of parliament.
8, I think. Article 8 or something. Down 8, it should be 8.
8. The recall of member of parliament shall be initiated by petition in writing, setting out the grounds relied on and signed by at least 2/3 of the registered voters.
Is that possible? Go down
of the constituency.
However,
of this article.
Apply under the movement system.
Let me look for that.
So to say that simply works under the movement system, which movement system is no longer.
It was yeah.
But that law still stands. Do you want to confuse me, not to convince me, to confuse me that all the lawyers in that house have never read that constitution, in particular that article, ever since movement system stopped?
That was 2005, yes.
So it has taken that house. So it's either way. When I use a word that they are simply dependents, that are there to simply, do you know, it's also possible that there are some MPs that can be in that house for over 5 years without even ever turning one page of that constitution? Because if that article still stands in our constitution, that you can simply recall these people only only under a movement system, which we don't have. So meaning under the multi-party dispensation, you cannot recall any member of parliament, even when they misbehave, heaven and earth. So what type of a parliament is that in your view, as a journalist?
Well, Norman, you mentioned about...
And you say I'm simply biased. I am simply honest.
Well, you mentioned about the political parties when you gave an example of the member of parliament for Rubaga South. I happen to have seen that
statement or something.
Yes, circulating on social media. Though I have no proof that that is what he said. But if going by what is there, then it is too unfortunate for this country. Now, I want to go back to the political parties we have. It's like even the political parties are a problem to this country. Look at the previous elections. We have constituencies where people just voted for members of parliament, actually leaders whom they do not even know. I want to give an example. Somewhere in around Natete areas, Natete, Chikano, around there, people went. They started to vote from. They started around 7, but by midday they had not realized that the ballot papers issued, they are not for that particular electoral area. They voted up to around midday until one of the candidates came. When she came to cast her vote, she realized, like, I'm not on the ballot paper.
So imagine what were they voting. And by the way, those are the citizens we have in this country, and majority. And you see, Tiff and our viewers, this is, when you over-listen to brilliant brains like the late Samsoni Chiseka and others, you realize that sometimes our electorate needs, it's an analogy, needs a hammer for their brains to wake up. Because imagine, they must have been educated people, in quotes, definitely through UPE and USE. There must have been elderly people. There must even have been religious leaders in AQ, and they voted with that misguided anger. Just tick whatever. We are annoyed. Some people even reach an extent of drawing Museveni and put there, I hate you. And that vote is useless. So that's the population that needs God's mercies and our efforts to change. So political parties, for some reason, you may not castigate them so much because literally they equally have no resources to train the masses. In fact,
their members.
Yes, and even the members. Because civic education, in any case, even if the parties could fundraise, you will not hold any rally to tell people what to do and when to do it and how to do it. Public order management law will simply get you.
It's no longer there.
They will always get, okay, it's not there. Let us try tomorrow. Tomorrow it's a working day. Let us get our megaphone, me and you, and say, guys, you know what? This law was repealed. And see how, and simple an LOD who can't even interpret a chapter, not even a verse in the Bible, will say, I can translate and interpret this for you. You get? So that society needs to be, to be given time, and can't change in a day or two. Because even, like you said, people, yes, voted out of anger, which is, some of them had justifiable anger or otherwise. Ask them to account for those that they voted. whether NRM, whether DP, NUP, FDC, and anyone else. I want to be on record. I remember in 2017 or thereabout between Muntu and Amuriat, the catchword was, we are reclaiming our victory. It's one question that FDC doesn't want to answer. It's one question that once you raise it, like, excuse me guys, what happened to the victory? They will say, you are a mole. And that's the dishonesty we have, even us in the opposition. That's such dishonesty, malicious communication, blackmail, can't save us. It doesn't make us different from any other. Because, okay, and with due respect, maybe there could have been other reasons for which Amuriat won Muntu. Yeah? But that standing statement in majority's view is what would support, like, yeah, it's a radical, this is the one for us, he's going to reclaim our victory. And then, what do we get? In fact, they even lost the lead of opposition.
No, man, could one think, if one thinks that what is happening today in our society, the political environment, you know, the kind of citizens which is really, our citizens are not informed, like you say, they lack civic education and all that. If one says that it was deliberately, there was a brain behind, which foresaw that at a particular time we need to have this kind of society, a gullible society actually. You know, we want to have a gullible society where people do not reason, people don't want to listen to ideas.
No, for some reason, Tiff and our viewers, you see, not being reasonable sometimes is as a result of a specific event. Take, for instance, if I had 2,000 on me and I have colleagues and we are all hungry, we shall, first of all, some of us will consider buying food and not buy some data to be informed through online. The same way, some of us will say, okay, let me, no matter what, let me first be informed. So the number of people that are willing to say, take the children to school, a number of people that are willing and able to buy a small radio for them to listen to are very few, because they are so desperate that they can't even have basics of life. So having a radio set in their homes becomes like a privilege and a luxury. I know that there are so many young people that can spend a full year without ever buying a newspaper. A newspaper of 2,000. Because, I mean, they will not buy it. Then there are those of us who will definitely, because they have no jobs, they will simply buy those newspapers to read
and look for jobs.
And look for jobs. You get? There are those addicts of sports who want to bet that they will go and hear Kapapula. That, I don't know which Kapapula they talk about. That they simply go and look for that table. They call it a table. And they will not even read the highlights. So about corruption, about how the government is milking them, they will not read those things. They will not. And if they are slightly lucky, the moment they tune in, they will hear one liar propagandist like Ofono Pondo. Like what? They will even think they're US. So well, that's how things will have been.
Before we proceed, I'd like to go through some of the comments that are coming through. And actually, I want to thank all of you who are part of the discussion. This one says, Chaguba Katongole, Robert, okay, I think it was it's a thread, okay. Just say they only know one word, order, period. So when I always say our parliamentarians are of less use, you people seem to attack me, and now you're seeing. That is from Chaguba Katongole.
Finally, Chaguba today has some network in regards to seeing things upright. You know, there is one Chaguba, you know, of NRM. Yeah. You know, but it happens. Sometimes you can go down, they call it what? Like there is no network, then you go uphill, there's some network. So sometimes I think, Chaguba, thanks for,
Then there is a response here. What is the cause for their uselessness? This one was responding to Chaguba. The executive is the sole cause of the corruption in parliament. Mr. Museveni is always going there with sacks of money to preempt and determine the direction of policies that would otherwise be of good use for the nation as a whole. I reasonably believe you subscribe to the ruling party, and it is your chairman who is causing all this chaos.
That's an insult.
Maybe the least they can do is talk to him about it. Otherwise, you have no more authority to comment about the quality of legislators in parliament.
Is it a he or she? Is that person? He. Okay, is that person referring
but
to
I'm not mentioning his name
yeah,
or
that person is referring to Chagwa that he has. Oh, yeah, definitely. Chagwa has always been yellow, and I think it's only his blood that is red, but he's yellow.
Then this one says Chagwa Katongole and Robert, they're like that because of the bad leadership. Museveni lets them be that way. He has no plan of making his members of parliament better. He rather makes them more lost by buying off their greedy heads all the time. Hey, that is kind of harsh. Then he actually, then this one, he actually calls us countrymen and women. Museveni is such a disgrace to the position of being president of Uganda. When I look at Ugandan parliament, and my eyes even hurt. Then Chagwa comes again. But calling you countrymen and women is not bad at all, because you truly are, my dear. Chagwa, I actually have no problem with him calling us that. My problem is with him. He's tired. Let him step aside. You see, I don't know if you've ever tried walking on a busy street and you get people moving towards the same direction. And you notice this person is moving at a slow pace. And you want to overtake him, but there is no space for you to, and then you just step on their feet behind. And then you see this person waking up and like, so many people actually, they're sleeping.
Yeah, definitely.
You could see them and think that they're, I don't know.
I think
the better word I can.
All of, I'm working on some write-up. And I was trying to also give a certain analogy in regards to how you manage an addict. You see, one of the things you need to do for an addict to get off the drugs or what they are addicted to is switch talking them and convincing them that, look, you can still survive without that you are addicted to. So I think one of the things that we need to do as a country is to, I don't know how best you can do it, is to deal with this power addict that sits on plot 1 and say, Mr. Addict, you can still survive minus this that you are addicted to, minus this power. And for some reason, you can, if that could happen, you'd see them change, like, oh, you mean I can live without drugs? So you mean I can live without being president?
So you want to go to
plot 1? I think people should now also invest lots of time to say, you power addict, you can still survive minus this power, because it's also possible. Because he's drunk with that power, he's becoming so addicted to that power. He's like,
can never think of anything else
minus being in a convoy of 40, 50 vehicles. Can I live minus going to Kololo and mock these Ugandans? Can I live minus? So I think psychologists need to do a lot of work to talk to this political and power addict and say, gentlemen and your family, you can survive minus this whole thing.
And here comes Chagwa Katongole again with a rejoinder. He says, and the problem is not him overstaying, but mindset change in you is the problem. To think that the president should give you what you want for your pocket, ha ha ha. Use the conducive environment we have for you to develop yourselves, not thinking about President Museveni.
Conducive environment. I think for me, Chagwa needs to be more honest to himself. You can be dishonest to the public, but once you go back home, you're like, God.
You speak to yourself.
I must have erred here. You need to forgive me. So Chagwa, once he talks of a stable environment, like he puts it, let's look at young people that struggle to study in these costly universities. They graduate, there are no jobs. Even those that try to get one, let's say you set up a saloon in less than a week or thereabout, council will be on your door to say you have to pay this specific amount for your license. They never bother about how you suffered to reach there. Let's go back to the other time I saw people celebrate that Mr. Museveni has signed onto the amendment of the NSSF Act. Yeah? And then you wonder on whether it is that effective and on whether it will be operational that quickly. I can assure you, you will hear people having press conferences. They will still work and work and work for that money. Because you see, in a modernized country, that such a system should be automatic. That you do not even need to walk to any office. Because they have your data. In fact, even retirement should be automatic. If you are in public service, you entered your information with them. It's countdown. The moment or that year, the moment you clock 65, it's automatic. Pop. You even get your letter on your email. Thanks for serving us. Blah, blah, blah. Wait for your pension. You don't need to go and again fill everything. Things should be done that way. But the problem is because we are being led by people who are supposed to, who are naturally nomads, who are supposed to be grazing cattle from point A to point D. Then by God's grace, they went into the bush, they became rebels. So they came, someone comes with the two mindsets, a nomadism mindset and a rebellious mindset. And then they are excited. They now have this gullible, citizens. They take us for a ride.
Well, there's so many comments here. I don't know whether I'll be able to read all of them, but let me try to just read a few. I think Chagwa doesn't seem to seize fire soon. Whoever goes to our parliament think he's done it all, and so don't blame the person with peace prizes, king of peace, in bracket, Copia. He made the environment conducive for all of us countrymen and women to thrive. You can do whatever you want as long as it's developmental. Chagwa, thank you for watching the show. Then I like this. Chagwa katongo ligwira wa show. Oh, Sirike.
Indeed.
Bwechigana afulumeko waweru. Well, I think, no, I'm not reading more comments. But let the conversation flow. We will actually, our admin will be giving you timely responses. And we are really proud that you keep, the show lively and you're always part of the discussion. Now, Mr. Norman, we need to go back to this whole thing of, you see, we all have an equal stake in this country. Yes.
You say it is presumed. You see, Tiff, let's also try to avoid moving by presumptions. That is, in fact, the good statement should be, that is how things ought to be.
How I wish you give me a chance to speak.
Proceed.
And I am the host.
Yeah. Apologies.
I am the president of. So, we all have an equal stake in this country. It's just unfortunate that many people actually don't know that they have a lot to play in putting things in the right order. And when we go back to the parliament, the kind of leaders we have, just like you mentioned how these people get there, it actually tells that the outcome will be of the same standard and in equal proportion. Because having members of parliament who rigged their way into the house, people have mortgaged their properties just to be able to bribe the voters so that they get into parliament. Meaning when they get there, they will have to, through whatever means,
they change themselves.
They will have to clear those loans first.
In fact, for your information, for purposes of rebranding themselves and distance themselves from the past, some of them drop their husbands and their wives so that they can be new. Yeah, the typical new African parliamentarians or politicians. Proceed.
Well, so we know the kind of society we have. We know the kind of voters we have, because their mindsets have also been twisted. They see things in a flip way, like upside down. Now, what can we do? Because we cannot watch this country move in such direction anymore. What can we do as people who have an equal stake in Uganda, in this country, Uganda?
One of the things that we need to do, all of us, I told you, it's civic education. But this civic education shouldn't stop onto the only people who want to, okay, the change agents. It should also cross to those that are in power. I told you, and I want to repeat it, that our addicts, the power addicts, need to be told that, look, Otafide, you can still be your Otafide and enjoy your wine and whiskey even if you're not minister, because you have been a minister since 1986. And you say, Kutesa, you can still be in Zimbabwe, and then
look after
look after you. In fact, even the Bazu can look after you. We can still tell the senior addict that, because you see, this senior addict said he earns 3 million. In fact, I'm one of the people that would say, let's give him more. You can even choose to give him 100 million per month.
When he's still in plot 1, or
no. What would he be doing there? Let this gentleman cross to his farm. We give him 100 million. Why would he accept to be underpaid? 3 million? No, let him go. We give
with
him
his seniority.
With his seniority, we give him 100 million and some reasonable vehicles, so that he can see how other people can take charge of this country in a most decent way. I want to repeat, I can't put this whole blame onto the senior addict and others, but rather to say the mindset of nomadism and a rebel, they have done their role. We now need a sober mindset that has seen the other nomad cattle keeper, how he mismanaged the country. Now we shall use his mistakes to correct them and move this country. So you need to do civic education. And we need, as young people, and both in opposition and even in NRM, I am sure Chaguba, save for coming on social media, he's one person that I'm sure is not satisfied and contented with what is there. Chaguba should tell the public how he missed being a flag bearer for East African Legislative Assembly because of his brokenness. He's as broke as me. And the politics of this country, just like you were punished heavily because of your empty pockets. So
why don't we talk about it?
No. I mean, you are one of us. We are the same. No, your wounds are fresh. Your wounds are fresh. For me, I avoided being punched because of my emptiness. So I didn't participate because I knew my voters were so hostile. So Chaguba's electorate was hostile. Those big men with those big berries were hostile. That's how Chaguba couldn't afford a ticket to be a flag bearer for NRM to go to Iala. So Chaguba, I share with you the pain. Yeah, but it's also okay to go ahead and pretend. It's your right, pretend. But to say, so we need to make more noise, and I will use this analogy as well. That gentleman, I just compare him to a driver of a very, very fast vehicle, and along the way, the gearbox gets faulty and it cannot engage any gears. So because he does not want to tell passengers that, guys, let me get out and I leave this vehicle, let's fix it, he now engages the reverse gear, which is operational, and he's taking us so fast, but going backwards. And we can't clap the way Chaguba is doing. Chaguba knows that his boss is driving this bus in a reverse way. He's reversing the whole bus. All the things he did way back, he's now undoing them, rather copying also the mistakes of his predecessors, and we cannot accept. So we need to do lots of civic education. We need to do lots of mobilizing and organizing people and telling them that, look, first of all, by teaching them what power entails. that the leadership, the parliament determines how much, in fact, that parliament even determines how one sleeps. Because if the taxes onto the mattresses are high, it means you will not be able to acquire a mattress, and therefore you won't be able to sleep.
Actually, in addition to what you're saying, when you go through our constitution, it's under the national objectives and directive principles of state policy. They clearly, if you go to part 14, B, they say all Ugandans enjoy rights and opportunities and access to education, healthy services, clean and safe water, work, decent shelter, adequate clothing, food security, and pension and retirement benefits. That is within our constitution. And now one would ask, when do these leaders ever think that an average Ugandan should enjoy this?
You see, Tiff,
just even here in the city, go try take a walk. Go to Katwe there, see how people are sleeping. Go to Wandegea, just Wandegea, it's 2 kilometers from the city.
From the center of
yes, power. And see how people are sleeping. See the kind of life people are living.
Okay, Tiff, let us accept. People are sleeping in a bogus way. People are not feeding. People are in stupid schools. What have they done? Because you see, Tiff, it's not fair also to say, this thief comes today, steals you, tomorrow steals you, and for you just crying and crying. And yet the Constitution is clear that there are specific responsibilities and mandates for every citizen to do. You are doing your role as a media personnel. Perhaps I'm trying my crystal contribution. What about others? Do you know that in my constituency, during my campaigns, the NRM flag bearer would prepare pilau. Pilau, it's rice mixed with beef. And young people would hold their t-shirts.
We even have pilau maskin. From where I come, we have pilau maskin. That fried pilau without beef. It's called pilau maskin.
So imagine a young person holding their t-shirts and they pour pilau. It's halfway burning the berry, but they want to take too much. There are no plates. And these very young boys, and for lack of another word, and serious young people continue and vote that person. That is that demeaning. Do you know what it means holding a t-shirt and they chop, pilau and pour onto your t-shirt? Because remember, pilau doesn't have soup. Because you would assume that soup would just get out. So pilau doesn't have soup, but someone holds the t-shirt and they pour rice there, and they are chanting this person. And that's the society that you think will wake up in the morning and realize how dictatorial this regime is. It's because the regime intentionally buried their interest of ever equipping those people with reasoning. With reasoning. As we speak political education, I think one of the reasons as to why I can proudly come here once invited and maybe say a word, perhaps because I was taught political education. Perhaps that's one of the reasons. Perhaps because I did nationalism at A level. Nationalism is no longer taught in A level. Political education is no longer taught. Do you know what they teach us? They now tell people here patriotism. Patriotism, the biggest mistake is to confuse young people that Museveni is the father of the nation. Already it begins with a lie. So meaning if they can put such a lie in black and white, it means the rest of the content are lies. Past leaders are swine. Excuse me, what did they do that he hasn't done?
Actually, going back to that same point of political education and all that, our fathers, those who had an opportunity to go to school, they actually had civic education. And it is no more. Even within our generation, there are those who could go to university and pursue political science, just like Mr. Museveni. He tells us he did political science and economics. You cannot find political science in any public university.
Yeah, I was told it was
scrapped
off.
Yeah.
Definitely, because he avoids brains like a few of us, and I proudly say it, because he knows that, you know, once you keep the mind, then the rest can follow. But as a generation, Tiff and others, we have to do a lot, beginning with ourselves, but also pestering those that have power. I will proudly castigate, point all fingers onto that house called Parliament for their wrong deeds, because they ought to be exemplary to all of us. Short of that, we shall forever be onto their neck, asking them tough questions and telling them that, look guys, you need to behave upright. And if that isn't done, I can assure you so many deals will cross there, so many envelopes will cross there. In fact, by 2026 or even
envelopes
there,
will exchange hands.
Yeah, they are about, definitely. But also that parliament, you know, Mr. Museveni likes having so many, very many as they can be. I mean, we shall one day have a parliament of over 800 MPs, and they will forever be proud to contest and be there. So, because literally tell me, on an average, we have a maximum of like 50. In fact, that's the maximum. Parliamentarians that have time and the brain is to debate. So why do we have 500?
Well, no man, it's like we've said a lot about this regime, the government in power, but it is also not fair to only bend on one single side. Do you think, or in your own view, because we put on different lenses, they will look at things differ depending on the way we are positioned. Do you see anything good that this government has offered to Ugandans? I want you to be honest. Like you've said, you are always honest. Be honest.
There are some crystal things. I don't want to sound like these radicals and extremists, because for some reason we have to accept that there are some few basics. But let me begin with the first two achievements for this NRM government. The first two leading achievements is that Mr. Museveni and his regime have created the biggest revenue base.
Okay.
They are the biggest tax collectors. And the second achievement, that is now for him and a few, and a small colleague. The biggest achievement, I don't know, it could be definitely for him, it's that they are the best and leading tax consumers. Even when they created the big tax base, they have gone ahead to benefit from the very tax base, to benefit themselves. So those are key two achievements. That's definitely from that gentleman and his team. And relative peace. Relative, because this is now being honest. I don't want to sound like Chaguba, so rigid. Relative peace. And which peace is now getting also spoiled. And that's why it's fair enough for this whole rot and the regime that it's high time they left, so they do not undo the few that they did. Because you now say, okay, some bit of infrastructure, some bit of, but also you have to question the cost of the same infrastructure. Because if it's not fair for me to know that from Kampala to Busia, your place, it's a 4-hour drive, for example. So we sit in a bus, we reach there after a week, and you are driving us. And I ask, but we have spent over a week, like, haven't we reached? Why do you avoid the question of how much time have we spent on this journey? So the achievements of Mr. Museveni and NRM in the period of 35 years, in fact, it's going to be 40 years, and it's otherwise. They are the same achievements that a sober and a patriotic president and government would achieve in a period of 10 years. You get? So that's the question to debate. Okay, fine, there is relative peace. Okay, fine, there is some bit of infrastructure. You will even come and brag, here we have a Southern Express. How much did it cost? It's another question. Do you know, if you don't know, may you allow me enable you know that there are people who procure land after reading through the National Development Plan, and they know by 10 years we shall have a road passing through this land. So they procure and keep quiet. So that 10 years to come, they will definitely be compensated at a very, very, very abnormal compensation amounts. Make your survey on Entebbe Express, now Ginger Express, and know now who owns such land. The same thieves. So to say there are some basic achievements, and with no doubt they are there. For example, there is that ritual of every 5 years having nominations, campaigning.
I'm afraid we have to leave this place.
Okay. Those are some of the things. There is another ritual every year. They say there's that ritual of State of the Nation address, where we're expected to account. That's a day that someone has to come and account to us what they did in the previous year. In fact, even Parliament should come every year to account to us. Okay, and then after a whole term, they say, these previous 5 years, the Parliament, because remember, Parliament is an institution, not simply individuals. Any speaker that comes into that office should be able and in position to trace the previous works. And you account to us. Not simply coming and saying, okay, we are 200, now we are 500, therefore we can chew this money as much as we can. No, it should go beyond that. The accountability, like what we see, is simply coming every single time to multiply the amounts of the vehicles and the expenses. That's not fair to us, and that's not fair to them.
Thank you so much, Norman. I would need to get your very, very last remark, and we get out of here.
It is that people should stay safe, because COVID, as far as we all know, it's there. And also they're corrupt, that if we don't fight you here, we shall fight you in heaven. And if we don't find you in heaven, we shall find you in hell. May God bless one and bless all of us.
Well, thank you so much, Bwana Norman, for creating time to be part of the show. And all our viewers, we really thank you for being part of the discussion. And you can still go back to the chat box within on our Facebook page, which is the Alternative Uganda. And let's keep this conversation flowing, because we really have a stake to putting this country in the right order and making sure that it is a safe place for us and the generations to come. My name is Abdalla Tiff. I wish you a good night until Monday next week.
Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.